So in this video, we are going to discuss the walking journey you had in 2018.
2019.
2019. And I'm so excited to hear this. And I know even our audience will be inspired with this. So first of all, introduce yourself, and then you tell us how did your walking journey started.
Hi guys, I'm Selina Nkoile Ash. This is my husband, Brian Ash, and we live in Bomanoma. So in this video, we're going to share with you an adventure that we took in 2019 as we were getting to know each other. And we will talk about the Walk Africa. Me and my husband and our other friends, we walked for 58 days.
58 days.
Across Kenya. Uganda. And Rwanda.
Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda.
Yes. So.
And before we start, Brian would also like you to introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Brian, as my wife said, and in 2019 we walked across East Africa.
How was it walking in Kenya, Uganda, and?
Well, the plan was originally to walk across Kenya from Busia to Mombasa. Well, really Diani Beach. So an extra day. And the plan was to fundraise for my nonprofit organization. And the idea came because I was living in a small village in Migori County called Uriri at the time. And my friend Nell from New York was there. My cousin Jade from Colorado was there. And about 50 kilometers away was the city of Kisii. And in Kisii, there's a very good Indian restaurant. I mean, amazing Indian food. The chef was Indian. The price was perfect. I mean, amazing food. And one day we said we should walk to go get Indian food. So we said, okay, let's do it. And we walked all 50 kilometers to go get Indian food. And on the way, someone kind of joked, I forget who, but someone joked, oh, we could walk across Kenya. And everyone laughed, but then forgot about it. But the seed was planted in our minds. And we decided to do it. So we walked from Busia to Mombasa.
How many days?
It took 34 days.
34 days.
34 days. We walked for 31 days. We rested for 3 days. One rest day in Nakuru, one rest day in Nairobi, one rest day in Titoande before crossing Tsavo, 5 days in Tsavo, without any villages or anything and lots of wild animals. We'll get into that. But it was 34 total days. We got to Diani Beach, went into the Indian Ocean. We thought we had finished our walk and we had a big celebration, but after a little while we kind of missed it, even though it was very hard and very challenging, and it was hard. I mean, it was painful every single day. We missed the adventure of it. So we decided to take a bus back to Busia, which is the border town on the Kenya-Ugandan border. Start at the exact same place that we started to walk across Kenya, because we remembered exactly where we started, literally to the exact spot. And we decided to walk, instead of going east across Kenya, we decided to go west, crossing into Uganda, walking across Uganda, crossing into Rwanda, walking across Rwanda up until the Rwandan Burundi border. At the time, Burundi had some political violence issues, and they wouldn't even allow us to go into Burundi if we wanted to. So that was the end of our walk, a total of 58 days. Started in the middle, walking across Kenya, going back to the middle, and walking across Uganda and Rwanda. So in total, we walked 58 days total. Yeah. 58 days. All of it, across East Africa. Ooh. Every single step.
And what were the challenges, Serena?
Of course, physical. So when we were starting, it was very tough from the start, because like your body's getting adjusted. You're not used to walking all that long. And then also getting the right shoe. For me, Brian had his sandals. His bedrock sandals, which worked perfectly. But for us, we had closed shoes. I had closed shoes. I would get blisters. So it took me some time to get the right shoe. But also, it also took, after a few days, the body started adjusting to walking like 40, 50 kilometers a day.
40, 50 kilometers a day.
Yeah. And of course, still we were getting to know each other at our worst. When someone is in the worst mood. But also, I think the most fun part was, crossing, being able to experience the beauty of these three countries, like one-on-one and on foot, every step of the way. But there was this day that We were in rural Uganda, and we were going to some town. I can't remember. And then we get there, and there was nowhere to sleep. And then we decided to go another 10 kilometers to get to a place to sleep.
Okay.
And I had already set my mind that tumefika, we are sleeping here. We are done walking, and then I hear 10 kilometers, and I was like, no, I'm going to die. So Brian took my backpack and then tied it onto his so that I could walk with nothing on me. And I was able to walk until our destination, and that was really sweet.
Wow, that was beautiful. And what inspired you start walking journey?
Well, we did it as a fundraiser for my organization.
Oh yeah.
So we used it as a fundraiser, but also to have a very fun adventure and experience that we all wanted to have.
Okay.
We would wake up at 3:30 every morning.
3:30 every morning.
Every morning we would be out walking by 4 a.m. Exactly 4 a.m.
4 a.m.
Because the sun comes up at 7 a.m. and once the sun comes up in East Africa, it gets much hotter and you get very dehydrated. So we were walking from 4 a.m. every single day, and then into the evening, late afternoon, evening, depending on where we were, what villages we were near, whether we were camping, whether we were sleeping in a just had a bunch of different factors.
And what motivated you every day? Was there those days you're like,
I mean, every day was painful. It was never easy. It's easy to look back at something like this and talk about how adventurous it was and the fun we had and all that. But what you forget is how painful it was every single day. But we decided. Once you decide, then you have to go for it. This walk was not in the wilderness. So if you think about, let's say, from Nairobi to Mombasa, there's no shortcuts. A lot of times we were walking on the side of major highways, which was both good and bad, because if we had been in the wilderness, we would have carried more food, more gear with us, and the packs would have been heavier. But if you're going for a walk into the woods, if you walk in, you have to walk back out. There's no mental fatigue. There's no having to convince yourself because there's no one who's going to come help you. But we were walking next to main highways for a lot of the time, which means there were cars passing by every single, literally second. So any time someone wanted to give up, they literally just could have put their hand up like this and a car would have stopped within 10 seconds. And they could have gotten in that car and been driven to wherever they wanted to go. So being next to the main road was a mental challenge, because the option to give up was always right there next to us. Every single day. All day.
okay. And is there any moment, Serena, you felt like, I'm giving up?
Not really. I think I was...
Be honest.
Huh? You helped me that day.
Yeah.
That day,
And there's a few times that I wasn't around, not because I had given up, but because I had some stuff to do back in the village.
Okay.
But at some point, I had to set my mind that I'm doing this, and the goal is to finish. So actually, by the time we were finishing Rwanda, because it took us 8 days to cross Rwanda, because it's not big, by the time we were finishing, it was actually worth it looking back and saying, I'm glad I didn't give up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what lessons did you learn from that whole journey?
I would say one big thing that struck me was that tribalism is a very prevalent issue in Kenya. Back to post-election violence because of tribalism, even to present day, much of politics is tribal, and some tribes have stereotypes of other tribes, and people are quite divided at times. But we walked through so many different tribes, and everyone was friendly. There would be people along the way that say, "Oh, you can't walk any further because the people down the road they'll eat you, they'll kill you and eat you." And then we get there, and they're the friendliest people. But they said, "You can't go any further because the next people are going to rob you."
Yeah.
We never experienced that. I remember we were walking up the escarpment to go to Nairobi, and we were passing Mount Longonot, and it just seemed like a few days before we were passing Lake Kisumu. And a different tribe, sometimes warring tribes or violent against each other, the two tribes that live in Lake Kisumu and Mount Longonot. But the fact that we just walked there on foot and been completely immersed in every tribe's culture and food and it just made it seem like the differences between the tribes were not as big as the things that made them more similar to each other.
And you, what lessons did you learn from the walking journey?
For me, I think the beauty that Kenya and Uganda and Rwanda is. I just enjoyed being immersed in other people's culture, regions, and just experiencing it all.
You have plans to, okay?
And of course, there's a mental aspect too, proving to yourself that you can do it. I mean, it hurt and it was painful, and there were times that no one wanted to keep walking, but your brain is what keeps you from doing that, or it makes you succeed. So it was a mental challenge just as much as a physical challenge.
Yes.
Something that we embraced, and we're better because of it.
Yep.
During the walk, people started asking us how we are. Everyone was getting text messages, and we were only 5 of us walking across Kenya and 3 of us walking across Uganda and Rwanda. But we decided to start on Instagram because instead of having to answer every single person who sent us a message, we could just post on the Instagram and people would know where we're at, if we're okay, that kind of thing. So if anyone wants to go to the Walk Africa on Instagram, there's pictures from every single day in the opposite of chronological order. So the first picture is from our very last day, and the very last picture is from the first day.
Yep.
And they can go back and they can see the foods we ate, the different people we talked to.
So any plans to go back into walking Africa?
I love long distance physical adventures. I've cycled across the United States of America, from Savannah, Georgia to Los Angeles, California, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, 5,000 kilometers. I've cycled through Europe, from Amsterdam to Barcelona. Walking across East Africa, these kind of long distance endurance adventures, I hope to continue. I had a plan to walk across all of Africa, but that was foiled by COVID lockdowns, and I was afraid I would be stuck in a country if I was walking and then they shut their country down or shut the borders down. I'd get stuck in a country. So that hasn't come to fruition yet, but hopefully one day something like that will definitely happen. I think the benefits of long distance endurance
And mental.
adventures are very good for my brain and obviously my body, and make me a better person.
Yeah, and I hope you'll be recording and posting on your YouTube channel so that we.
Well, if Mrs. Rachel comes with us, then she can do the recording. And Mrs. Rachel can hop on a motorcycle anytime she wants. When Mrs. Rachel gets tired.
Okay. How did you how are you managing the weather and food?
So we went during a time when it was not the rainy season. So our biggest challenge was the sun and the heat, of course, which makes you very dehydrated. We had water purifiers, so water was never an issue. We would refill water in towns or villages along the way, or even in a river. The only big issue, the hardest part I should say, was Tsavo National Park. Tsavo West, Tsavo East, because again, we were walking along main roads most of the time. We found some shortcuts, especially in western Kenya, but most of the time we were walking along main roads. So we didn't have to carry too much food because we knew 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers ahead we're going to find a mama on the side of the road selling rice and beans or something like that. Water, we could walk for days without food if we had to. Water, you miss water for a few hours and you're sitting down, you can't even move. So water was important. And Tsavo, from Chitwande to a point called McKinnon Road, there are no villages. You can't go near the river because it's full of animals. And for those 5 days, we actually had to carry all of our water for 5 days, which is extremely heavy. And we actually had to contact KWS, Kenya Wildlife Service, and they provided us with 2 Kenya Wildlife Service rangers to walk with us with guns, because there were leopards and lions and elephants and other wild animals, which we got sometimes too close to, not by our choice, but by the animal's choice, and we had to be protected. So for those 5 days, we were protected. But that was the only time through the entire 58 days that we had any security or anything with us. It was, besides those 5 days, it was just us. But those 5 days were absolutely the hardest days. I mean, just nonstop sun, wild animals. Like I said, we woke up at 4 a.m. every day to get 3 hours of walking before the sun rose. We can't do that in Tsavo because lions and leopards and cheetahs, they all hunt during sunrise. So walking at 4, 5, 6 a.m. is very dangerous in the dark when those animals are extremely active. And they were right around. I mean, we heard leopards roaring very, very close to us, like too close for comfort. So we had to wait until the sun came up and then start our day. So not only was the day longer, but we had to start it when the sun was up instead of getting in, maybe 15 kilometers before the sun came up. Add on, we're carrying many kilograms of extra weight in the water that we had to drink, because there are no villages, there's no shops, there's no river. The only river, like I said, you can't get near because there's crocodiles and hippos and other animals. So Tsavo was very, very tough. But by that time, we'd been walking from Busia up to Tsavo, so our bodies had been accustomed to walking. It was actually easier for us than it was for the KWS team that walked with us, because they were not used to it, and our bodies had acclimated, but theirs had not. So we got slowed down by them taking breaks, but they did a good job protecting us, for sure.
Okay. And for the people who will be watching this and maybe they would be interested to start this journey of walking, what advice do you have for them?
I mean, if you're going to do it in a place like Kenya, you have to know the language. I mean, if I didn't know Swahili, then it would have been much harder to communicate. We walked and we're very friendly. We walked. I mean, people asked us, "Don't think it's dangerous?" But we walked and would say hi to people and walk confidently, like we knew what we were doing and we belonged there, and no one bothered us. We'd get people who would walk for 10 kilometers with us and have a great conversation and then leave. But you have to know the language, of course. Okay. Yeah, it goes back to knowing the language.
And you, Selena, what advice do you have for them?
I think similar. So just do it. I would not tell you it's easy, but go in ready to face the journey and the challenges that you will come across. And be friendly, be respectful about other people, be kind, because from my experience, everyone we met along the way, really, no one really gave us any reason to fear or like feel like we are threatened or in danger. Okay. Yeah.
So would you say it's a greatest personal achievement you guys had?
For me?
Africa,
No. No. I would not.
But at least you got to know each other during your dating.
Yes. But I've done many more difficult things in my life.
Like?
To me. It could be day-to-day things. Building Bomonoma had many more challenges than the walk, because walking across East Africa, yeah, it was hard. It was painful, but it was a physical challenge, which I knew I could train my brain to overcome and embrace the pain, and my body was able to do it. So even though it was hard, it was not hard in the same sense that life can throw you very hard, challenging things that are unexpected and have nothing to do with your physical ability, but more your mental state and mental ability. So no, I would say physically maybe it was one of the more intense things I've done, but in terms of it being challenging to my mental state or well-being as a person, I've seen and faced many harder things in normal life, in normal life than doing that. You have to remember that we decided to walk across East Africa. Nobody was forcing us to. If anyone wanted to quit, they could have quit at any time, but no one did. So that shows you that, every day we woke up, and even though it was painful, we wanted to keep going. Okay.
How were you able to, maneuver in laws, accommodations?
What we did was I would plan logistics for about 1 week at a time. So typically we'd walk for about 7 days and take one rest day. Like I said, we took about 7 days to get to Nakuru, took a rest day. Took a little bit shorter time to get to Nairobi, took a rest day. Took about a week to get to Mtito Ande, took a rest day, and then maybe a little bit longer to get to Diani Beach. So I'd look at those blocks in between the rest days, maybe 7 to 10 days. And I used Google Maps on my phone. I could not use normal Google Maps because a lot of the small villages wouldn't show up, so I had to use the satellite images and look for the shine of the mabati, the metal roof in the sun. And if you could spot that, you knew at least there was something there. There was food, water, and we'd know where those were along the way, and we'd have a goal of a place to sleep. We carried tents, so sometimes we would ask someone if we could pitch our tents in their field or in their yard, but other times, if we had planned it correctly and reached a small village that had a guest house, and the guest house was, you know, $3 or $4 US dollars, maybe 300 or 400 Kenyan shillings, and we've been walking all day from 4 a.m. We are tired. The guest house has a shower, has a bed. We absolutely stayed in guest houses when they were available. It meant that we didn't have to set up our tent. It meant that we could take a shower. It meant that we could sleep on a real mattress. So depending on where we were, it determined kind of how we slept and where we slept.
How about the budget?
The budget, we did it very cheaply because the only thing that we had to buy was food and even water. We could have bought bottled water, but like I said, we had a water filter.
Yeah.
So we were able to drink even river water or water from local wells or anything.
Yeah.
So we didn't even have to buy water if we didn't want to. It was just food, and food was quite inexpensive, especially going into Uganda. Very good, healthy, nutritious food that was very inexpensive. And then, of course, the cost of a guest house, which ranged from, you know, $2 or $3 to maybe $7 or $8, depending on where we were. But even that wasn't a must because we had tents. So it was not an expensive trip.
Okay.
It was just walking.
And among the 3 countries, which country did you enjoy, walking most, Serena?
For me, I would say Kenya, but also Rwanda was good until I got to the capital and the genocide really traumatized me.
Rwanda, unaongea kuhusu Rwanda.
Rwanda.
That's Rwanda.
Sijasema Rwanda?
Umesema Uganda.
No, Rwanda, Rwanda.
Uh-huh.
So Rwanda, we went until the capital and I went to the genocide museum and it really messed. But yeah, I was very emotional. I was, it was quite mind triggering. But it's besides that, I'm sure like we have been like working so hard to try and mend those relationships and not go back there. But other than that, Rwanda is also a very, very beautiful country. It's called the country of 1,000 hills. It has so many hills.
And we walked up and down almost every one of those hills.
Yeah.
You look to where we're going. You look to where we're going, and the distance is 10 kilometers that way, and it's at the same height that we are, but there's 7 hills in between that you have to walk very steep up and very steep down. You just wish there was a flat road, but it was always hills.
Yeah.
Kenya was beautiful in the sense that it was the most diverse geographically. There's mountains, there's valleys, there's wet areas and swamps, and there's dry areas and deserts. There's ocean. I mean, it's just, no 2 environments were the same. Uganda was beautiful, but much more the same throughout the whole country. Hilly, lush, green, bananas everywhere, which was amazing. Amazingly beautiful, but not as diverse as Kenya. And then Rwanda as well was beautiful in terms of the hills and the landscape, but as a smaller country, just not as diverse as Kenya. So for me, I can't say that I had a favorite, but Kenya was for sure the most diverse, but maybe not the most beautiful. Maybe not the most beautiful. Western Uganda and northern Rwanda are, in western Uganda, from a place called Imbarara, and then going west and into Rwanda. I mean, it's just gorgeous.
About the food, which kind of foods are you eating?
We're eating a lot of local food. Rice and beans throughout Kenya. We didn't eat too much meat. One, because we don't eat a lot of meat anyway, but also because if you're walking, eating meat can sometimes be a little risky. So we stuck to rice and beans, avocados, good healthy foods. And then into Uganda, we ate a lot of matoke, which is boiled bananas with G-nut sauce, groundnut sauce, peanut sauce. Again, extremely nutritious. You get your carbs, you get your protein, and yeah, we felt great. But we obviously ate local food on the way, and that was some of my favorite times, stopping to eat at all the different places. And you can imagine how many calories we were burning. We were burning, 7,000 to 10,000 calories a day from walking, where the usual person burns about 2,000 calories a day. So we were eating maybe 4 or 5 times the amount of a normal person would eat in a day. So we were eating a lot of food, and we were certainly enjoying the food we ate. And for someone who likes to eat like me, it was nice to be able to eat as much as I wanted of delicious food and still be losing weight. So it was nice.
Okay.
Another question, like how much package or luggage, how heavy it was?
The luggage one should prepare, to carry.
Each one was carrying.
I can't estimate, but it was all our clothing throughout the trip. Maybe an extra pair of shoes, a tent. It was like quite a long backpack, but not so heavy.
Like 10 kgs?
Oh, more. For sure more. I mean, we try and pack as light as possible. We didn't take anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. But for example, I was 58 days. I still carried my laptop and my laptop charger because we would get to a place maybe at 5 p.m. and I had a few hours to log on to my email or respond to people or things like that. So I still carried my laptop. I had to carry tent, but anything we didn't need, we did not carry. Okay. So really only 2 or 3 pairs of clothes, one for walking, one for that night, and the other one was being washed as you were wearing. Constantly rotating clothes and keeping it light. Water was the heaviest thing we carried.
Okay.
But it went reducing throughout the day.
Yeah, but then you'd have to fill up on water again.
Tomorrow.
But without water, like I said, you could go for days without food and walk totally fine. But you miss water for a few hours and you're not going anywhere. So water was by far the most important thing.
Okay. And did you you said you started working because of your organization. How was it at the end of the journey? Did you achieve your goal?
It was good. We got a very awesome company in America to sponsor the costs of our trip, meaning that donations would then go straight to my organization. That was awesome. And so we ended up raising a good amount of money.
Like how much?
I can't remember exactly because it was in 2019.
Yep.
But it was definitely successful. And that was walking across Kenya. Yeah. We chose to walk across Uganda and Rwanda just on our own. Okay. Because we had just done a fundraiser to walk across Kenya and we couldn't turn around and say, okay, now we're going to do another fundraiser to walk across Uganda and Rwanda. People would have thought that we were just trying to take advantage of them.
Another question, do you ever dream of maybe participating in the Olympics one day?
Any plans for Olympics participation?
I mean, I would love to play. I would love to participate in the Olympics. I am not anywhere near fast enough to even qualify for an Olympic trial race. So no, that is not a realistic goal. I still run every day.
Yeah.
And stay active. I think that's most important. I've always been so interested in Mount Everest. I've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, I've climbed Mount Kenya, but I've always wanted to climb Mount Everest. Obviously these days it's become much more commercialized and you can see pictures of hundreds of climbers waiting in line to get over the Hillary Step and things like that. So it's become a bit more controversial. But I would much rather climb Mount Everest one day than participate in the Olympics. Not that I have any choice because I cannot participate in the Olympics because I am not nearly fast enough nor strong enough.
Okay. And you, Serena?
Oh, for me, I think running is in my blood. I used to run a lot back in school. But of course, you see, without a lot of mentorship in sports, especially for rural kids, it's even hard for them to advance their career in athletics and sports. So I don't know, maybe after I have my second baby, I might start training pole. But I still feel like if with training, I could increase my pace. And the good thing with me is I can do short races and long races as well.
I mean, to be honest, there's 0% chance that either of us are going to be in the Olympics. But what I certainly hope to do is, I certainly hope to be a positive role model to our daughter and future children, and not force them to be active or athletic. But if they see me going on a daily run or in the gym, we have a gym here at Bomonoma that I can show you. If they see me doing that and it's helping me, and they want to do it as well, then I would certainly encourage that, and maybe one day our daughter will be in the Olympics, but my time has passed on the Olympic opportunity. Walk to America. Walk to America. How kuna bahari katikati?
Katikati zilipofika, then there uendelee to your state.
Kuvuka.
Maybe. Future plans?
Yeah, inawezekana. I'm in Tukambua, inawezekana.
Or maybe your daughters maybe can.
The daughter can keep the legacy alive.
Yeah.
That was an awkward kiss because you asked.
I know. Ingekuja naturally.
Yeah. So if people want to find more of your story, where can they?
Mira, oh my God.
Bomanoma.com is the online home of our eco-lodge, but also has information about us and links to our respective nonprofit organizations. It has a story about how we started. It has contact information. Basically, everything leads you back to www.bomanoma.com, BOMANOMA, which I'm sure will be linked in the video description below.
Yep.